Here we go. All right. Good morning. We are here today with me, Jasiah, and the great Pete. And these are our weekly hypnosis talks. And today we are going to talk about growth edge and the method for accessing intuition and resolving tensions. So, as always, please, any questions that you might have, feel free to type them out in real time and take it away, Pete.
Awesome. So I was thinking, continuing on what we were doing the last couple weeks, this is like the next part of, with every growth and journey we go on, we hit an edge, right? And they call it the growth edge because at the growth edge, we can see where we want to be, but we feel like something's in the way, you know? And really what we need to do is either have a shift in our mindset, a new insight, or even just a new perspective, right? Now, sometimes that comes really easy. Sometimes we need someone to coach us, to guide us along. This is one where a lot of the clients I work with, this is the point they typically come to me, is because they go, I've tried so much and I'm stuck, right? I can't get over that hurdle. And so it's really a great place to be in because it means you're almost there. And so when we have that growth edge, right, it means we're just going to learn something new. We're going to make a small shift in our identity so we can see ourselves differently to get over that hurdle, right? And so when we think about it as simple as can be, it's about our thoughts, it's about our emotions, and it's about the actions we take. And so it's one where, we'll use weight just as an easy one, right? Where someone goes, the thoughts of I am fat, right? That is really a terrible thought if you're trying to lose weight, right? Because that is an identity statement. That's a powerful thought. The emotions behind it are very negative. Therefore, the actions you take will reflect that, right? And sometimes we got to learn something new, right? It's one where a lot of people I work with, it's really accepting that it's a journey. It's not going to be an overnight process, right? We're going to celebrate every small win as they come, right? Some people, they need to relearn how to eat altogether, right? Some of them just need to shift the belief of I am fat into I am a person who's starting to lose weight, who's starting to take control, And as we bring in those good feelings of like, wow, like I ate half the portion I normally eat. Oh my goodness, I feel really good about that. You're feeling that emotion, you're reinforcing those thoughts, and you're going to take better action, right? But for a lot of people, they hit that growth edge, right? They hit that wall. They get frustrated because they want to get past it. They just don't know the way, right? And I've learned over the years, every time I hit this edge, it is my calling that it wants me to grow beyond it, right? It means I'm not settling, or I don't want to settle where I'm currently at. I want to get beyond it. And so to me, I use it as a calling, right? As an intuition inside of me saying, there's more you can do. So let's go out there and do it. But when we think about it from, I say, more of a scientific standpoint, not a lot of people think that way, right? We get stuck on this feeling that something else is controlling us, right? Like there's another puppet master pulling the strings who are just keeping us right at that edge, right? For us, scientifically, it's our subconscious mind, right? It's what houses all that ability to stay where we're at because it knows what's on this side that we do not like is safety because we know what's there. We don't know what's on the other side of this wall. That's scary. And so it's trying to protect us, to control us into that spot until we can really go, no, I'm ready for it, right? I'm willing to learn to let go of something. And so as we typically live our day, right? And I find most of us call it stress, right? When we're stressed out, it's because we're at that growth barrier, right? Where we go, there's something more on the other side. I just can't get there. It is telling us that there's something greater for us. And so to keep it simple, we really have two choices in that moment, right? We can either settle in, go, you know what? I'm going to reduce my demands and I'm just going to stay here, right? Or we can grow. We make that wall go out another 2 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, a mile, right? As we learn to handle what happens, right? As we learn to handle the new skills, the new beliefs, right? Because they're not set in stone just because we say them. They become set in stone based on the repetition we give them, the reinforcement that we look to go, yep, that's a reinforcement of that new belief. That's how that growth edge goes out further. So if we think of Newton's third law, right, it's every force has a equal opposite force. And for me, I love that because it tells us every time we're feeling stressed, the equal opposite force is that freedom, right? And so we have to be able to look for that opposite emotion, right? Because if we're just, let's say, frustrated, right, that emotion, we can either look at it and go, you know what, I'm going to settle into that frustration, or we're going to integrate into the freedom, right? We can't have both. We have to be able to choose. And so this is where I found InsightFlow to be really helpful, because it helps us really get into our intuition to help us settle those emotions, right? Those frustrations, those agitated emotions from that growth edge, right? So when I think about it, like the growth edge, I always think about it like an animal in a cage, right? When you go to the zoo, they see what's on the other side, right? They see all these other things going on, but there's a blind spot for them, right? There's that glass barrier that they can't get through. They can't get over. And for a lot of us, we are that animal in that cage. But what's on the other side is the new perspectives, that new wisdom, that new insight that we want to have in our life, right? That freedom to, sprawl out and stretch our legs and arms to do something different, to run faster, right? And so this is one where Harvard psychologist, I think it was Bob Kegan and Lisa Lahey, they really talked about at Harvard that there's a moment when we're in our cage and our mind, right? Our mind is controlled by our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, our assumptions. And that generates this stress of going, I'm not happy here, but I don't know how to get out there, right? What we're looking for is that key just to get past this stuck cage, this glass, to find the balance, to be on the other side, right? To get that shift from being caged to free only comes in small transformational shifts, right? They're insights. And so this is where, when we think about InsightFlow, it's really amazing because it's really simple. And I think that's what I love about it for the most part. So the first part to it is you got to talk to your emotions as if they're a third person. They're not you, right? They're not someone you know. It's just a third person, right? You need to get a little distance from you and that emotion, right? I think about it as if it's Velcro before we rip it off, right? They're stuck on you, and you have to rip them, right, to pull it off, so you can separate yourself from the emotion. All right. So for me, when I do this, the first thing I do is I say, you know what? Let's say it's frustration. I go, you know, frustration, I need to talk to you. Can you present yourself? Right. And I'll pull them out. I will give it a size, a shape, a color, a smell. Maybe they talk in alien language that I don't understand. That's okay. Right. But you're giving it this third person embodiment for it. Right. And as I pull them out and I make sure I take the time, this isn't something you just go, oh, boom, there he is. Take 2 minutes, 3 minutes if you need to, just to pull them out. You know, if we think about therapy work in Gestalt therapy, have a second chair in front of you if you need to put them in. You know, get emotionally involved when you talk to them. And so when they're pulled out, right, they're either sitting or standing in front of you, talk to them. Ask them, what do you need right now? Right? Why are you here? Are you trying to protect me? Right? Do you know how you affected my thoughts and my actions? Like how you're holding me back? And once you kind of create that dialogue and you gain, excuse me, a little bit of insight, right, from their responses, then you ask the emotion, right, the frustration, just to step away, right, to go maybe in another room, to go outside, right? So you just have this place just to process what you just experienced, right? And so this is where step 2 comes in. As they leave, you get to go to a still place, a quiet place, right? The Buddhists call it going into being a non-being, right? It's a place where it's just, I guess the way I look at it is it's like at the end of an orchestra when the maestro, and he finally goes like this, and you hear all the music just stop, right? That's how I picture it, but for my mind, right? Is you're just saying, time to quiet down so I can reflect, right? And again, or you could ask the part just to leave, right? Just to go outside for a moment. I got to sit here and a couple of moments of peace, right? It doesn't have to be a long time, just long enough so that opposite energy, your intuition can show you something, right? Whether it's a word, a picture, a noise, a feeling, an energy, something that's different, right? And once you get that, right, this is where psychiatrist Dan Siegel used to talk about the integration part. Excuse me. And so when everything starts to integrate into you, right, this is where you take all the time you need to get to know that new freeing feeling, get to know that key, right? Get to know this freedom for the next part of the process, right? This is what really has you move beyond that barrier. And again, it's not you do it once, done forever. You do it every time the emotion comes up, right? You do it every time because you're teaching it that instead of being frustrated, we're being resourceful. Instead of being angry, we're going to be in control and calm, right? You're teaching it that now's not the time for it. That way it knows when something like this happens, it goes, I don't need to be here. Hey, resourceful, come over here. We're at that edge, right? We're at that glass barrier. That is the integration part of it, right? Getting to know what that's like. And when you do that, it will settle the negative emotions. It will quiet your mind, and you just get to begin to get used to move forward with the key, right? Being able to get out of every cage you see yourself in just clearly. So that is, in a basic form, the InsightFlow technique. But I find it to be super helpful when we get stuck on that growth edge.
So, okay, that was great. Thanks. Um, when I'm hearing like, so once you find that emotion and then you talk to it as a third person, And then once you talk, you ask questions and you listen, then you ask it to step outside or, go in whatever way uh, it'll go to leave you in a still place. And in that still place, um, you see what comes. I didn't quite catch that part. Or are you asking questions? Are you inviting something in? What, or do you just sit? Are you just simply being in
Yeah.
that still place?
Yeah. So in that moment, you're really just reflecting your discussion, right, with them.
Okay.
Because it's one where I'll use frustration as a really good one. Frustration's not there because it wants you to suffer, right? It's not going, Pete, I just, we're having a good day and I just wanted to ruin it, right? It's never said that to me. It's always going, you know what? I feel like this is something beyond what we can do, right? And so I go, okay, so you're trying to protect me. He goes, yeah, I'm trying to protect you. Like, I don't want to see you in pain. I don't want to see you fail, right? Okay, so that's why we're frustrated, right? Or he goes, hey, we never learned that skill, right? We can't do that because we don't know that skill yet. Okay, so instead of being frustrated, it's, I have that conversation. I go, hey, go outside and play. Go play hoops for a little bit. I want to sit here and reflect. And I'll go, so he's trying to protect me, huh? Yeah, I can see that, right? He's right. Like, the way he said it wasn't right, but he is right. I don't know how to do that. So I wonder what I can do to learn it. I wonder who I could reach out to that might know either how to do it or to get a book or a course or whatever to learn it. Now all of a sudden the frustration is no longer there because I'm still keeping what he's trying to do for me, but I'm getting a new perspective as far as, yeah, I got to learn something, right? And then he doesn't need to come back. He can just keep playing, and then I get to go, okay, I now know what I need to do, right? Something different. Knowing if I do the same exact thing, he's going to come right back. Okay. But the moment I just do one thing different, if he comes back, it's for a different reason. But chances are it'll be a different emotion, a more empowering emotion that will creep in. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I was. I'm feeling like, in this, just, simplified 3-step version, um, the still place is a really important place that I think can sometimes be overlooked. Um, and then sometimes people are in a still place um, without no, giving themselves the power and taking the initiative to remove something or to pay attention to something. um, and then and then the integration part will sometimes, I feel like I know I could look at these 3 things and say I've maybe done one without the other, or tried to do the one without the two, something like that. But to kind of see this just as, again, a simplified version of a place to start, where you realize that um, this thing that you're just used to happening, like this thought just happens and I just have to deal with it, and it's in my head, I can't stop it. It's like, actually, you could start to talk to it
Yeah.
and listen, ask it questions, see what happens, and then escort it outside. Like, that's actually really powerful, you know and it's less abrasive than like shooting it or throwing it, to the moon or universe. um
Yeah.
there's times where that might be the right thing, but you don't have to annihilate or forcefully get rid of something all the time. Often I think just like creating that relationship to your own self and all the aspects, that you could just take a moment to listen to the tantrum, to ask some questions, exchange dialogue, and then escort them outside. And even if that means you need to make them like a nice little bed to go relax to, there's a difference in that to a forceful, way, which often just continues to struggle, and it'll usually win. That's the problem. So
Yeah.
it's like, and so I'm kind of just hearing that, and then the integration as well. What you
Yeah. The integration is probably the most important part out of all of it.
right,
Right? Because if you don't embody or integrate the change, then you won't change.
right,
Right? It's the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
right. Yeah, you
Right?
can know everything, but if you don't imply it, like my mom always says, wisdom is conduct. Which I
Yeah.
always remember that, and I like that. The last little piece, we are at 20 minutes, but I just wanted to point out another part that I've been working with, which is um, bringing something in. So, which I think is part of what you're saying, but I've been working with these aspects of like, okay, noticing something that doesn't feel right, talking with it, and then, giving it a place outside of your body, or at least in a more, less important seeming place, like the middle of your finger, like you've mentioned, like tip of your finger.
Yeah.
Um, and then again, I like the moving to the still place. And then from there, if there's something that you notice, like inviting it in, I think that, which I think is also part of the integration, but I just think visually and physically to think about meeting and dialoguing with an emotion and then letting it outside, then there's a space. And
Yeah.
that still space is really nice to just listen, but it also could be thought of as now a place that you can invite something in.
Yeah. And this is one where with this one, that still place, it will naturally want to come in. So what I say, even I do it, and I've done it with clients too, where I'm like, okay, now we're getting rid of angry, let's bring in happy, right? We're just trying to bring in a specific one. This one's more designed where they get to go, I don't know what it's called, but it's really nice, right? They may know they may go, wow, this is pure bliss, right? They may say that, but they may go, I don't know what it is, but it feels right, right? And then you just integrate with that. So versus being directed, it's very indirect of what emotion is coming in. It's just knowing that there is an opposite to every emotion.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. And
what
I
we
think that's
call it could be different.
right. Well, and often, I mean, words are just our best ability to describe, you know, the the thing that's happening that didn't have words until you put it onto them anyway.
Yeah.
But so it sounds like that aspect that I'm talking about is within the still place and integration. So just to put it out to like other viewers when they're listening, you know, there's many ways to do everything always. And one idea as well is if there feels like a space or an opportunity to, as you've let something go, noticing that space and that you can fill it with something. And even if it's a I don't know, um, there's probably an opposite of that feeling that you let out. And even if that word isn't quite right, maybe you just feel what it might feel to feel different than that thing you wanted to let out. And then just maybe see if it wants to place itself there and grow. It could be an elephant, it could be a seed. I mean, it just
It
depends.
could be a noise, right? A noise just might come into your mind and it goes, oh, I remember that noise. That time I felt this way, right? This is why I learned the mind is amazing because it could be a picture, it could be a word, it could be a smell,
Right.
right? It could be anything,
Yeah.
but it'll have significance to you as the person going through it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, great. Growth Edge Insight Flow. I'm sure there's more that a practitioner or a client could look into and Google if you're more interested. And anyone who, as always, if you have any questions or want to go deeper in anything, just reach out to either one of us on all the social media platforms. And thank you so much for being here today. And it's in perfect alignment as it always is, because I didn't have the name of this kind of process, but definitely been working with it.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool tool.
Yeah. And again, like it's simple, right? You
Yeah.
just got to take time, turn
Yeah.
off the phone, close the laptops, and just go no distractions for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can work through it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And maybe next time we can talk about when people have such deep blocks that actually even getting to this place is very difficult. I've realized that these kind of things are not difficult for me, but I've also developed them over the years. But it's also, who I am.
Yeah.
But I definitely can do it now because of everything that I've worked on around it.
Yeah.
So it would be really cool to talk about maybe the smaller, if you can't get there yet, some other techniques to build up to that. Let's
Yes.
let's do that
I
for
like
next.
that one. That's a good one.
All right, cool. All right, well, hey, thanks everyone, and we will sign off for now. Ciao. Thanks, Pete.
Bye.